Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer, in that order. Welcome, everyone. Recently purchased a collection which had a bunch of key donruss football rookies, and I was going to go through them and figure out which ones I want to send off to PSA for grading. And I figured, oh, why don't I set up the camera, press play, and record my process here. And you can see there's about 8 Lamar Jackson rookies. I think there's 3 Josh Allen rookies, and then there's 1 Patrick Mahomes. These are 2018, the Josh Allen and the Lamar Jackson, and the Patrick Mahomes is 2017. So yeah, going to go through these each one by one and decide which ones I want to send off to PSA. All right, first the Lamar Jackson, and the first thing I want to know is what does the card sell for raw and like in solid, near mint condition, no major issues with which none of these had. So what does it sell for raw? Went to eBay, looked at completed sales. These are completed sales, not asking prices, and you can see the range from about $18 up to maybe 40 or so. Mostly I would say around 30. So we're going to call this card about a $30 card ungraded. And the next thing I want to know is what does the card sell for graded? So I looked that up and used the white number in the middle. That's the average of recent sales in each PSA grade. You can see in a PSA 8, it's just a little over a $30 card. So it's basically the same as a raw copy. PSA 9 is a little more. It's about $45, and a PSA 10 is up over $100. So in a PSA 8, it would be a loss because I have a $30 card now. I'd be spending $20 to have it still be a $30 card. A 9 is actually a loss as well because it's a $30 card now. I have to spend $20 to get it graded, and it's now a $45 card. So I would have to spend $20 to add $15 of value if it comes back a 9. So that's a net $5 loss. And then a 10 is obviously a nice value add. So the only way to consider getting this card graded is if it has a strong shot at a 10. If it doesn't have a chance at a 10, it's going to definitely be a loss. So I have to be pretty strict when looking over these cards. Like if I see any issue with it, it's not going to pass the test. And this is a change I've made in recent years. Is cards like this of this sort of value, I look over a lot closer as it's PSA has gotten stricter, and it's sort of more important for me to get this sort of card right than it had been in the past. But this first Lamar Jackson. So this video you're viewing is sort of the first pass. And I did do a second pass, and a couple of them after initial inspection I decided to send in. On the second inspection I changed my mind. This is actually one of the ones I changed my mind on. It's razor sharp everywhere. The centering is the tiniest bit off. You can see the back centering's a little more notably off, although PSA is pretty relaxed on back centering. But the front centering I felt was, on first pass I thought was good enough for a PSA 10 caliber card. But on second pass, I decided I thought it probably would not get a 10, and so therefore the numbers didn't work out for it. So in the video here, I put it into a semi-rigid, getting it ready for PSA, but ultimately I sort of vetoed that one, and it did not get sent into to PSA. Second Lamar Jackson copy was actually the very, very similar. These cards were just all razor sharp, like pack fresh cards everywhere. Super sharp corners and everything, but again the centering just the tiniest bit off here, left to right, the right border being just a little bit wider than the left. That's what my eye was telling me anyway. So again, in the first pass I sort of thought it was within the range of PSA 10 caliber, but on the second pass, again, this was the second one that I vetoed. And that's another change I've made in recent years as PSA has gotten stricter. Cards of this sort of value, I generally do a second pass on because, I can't be sending in a whole bunch of cards at this level. They all come back 8s and 9s, and I'm losing money on every single one. That just hurts the bottom line too much. So, I do a second pass on cards where, it could very well come back a loss if I don't get the top grade I'm aiming for. But yeah, for the first pass, I considered this one good enough for PSA, and on the second pass, I sort of vetoed it, which was the case with the first two. All right, third Lamar Jackson, and I thought these were good cards to use as an example for this video because they're sort of what I would call high supply, high demand cards. They're the cards a lot of people want, key rookies of major stars in the league today, but they're very common cards, so you see these everywhere. But this third example was a little more straightforward, clearly off-center left to right. Right border is wider than the left. This would have no chance at a PSA 10. So this was an obvious, pass in terms of sending it off to PSA. But you can see everywhere else other than centering, these are just really, really sharp. They were all sort of pack fresh cards. Another change I've made recently is I don't touch cards like this with my hands anymore. I use a penny sleeve to sort of pinch it, and then I put it into another penny sleeve. as opposed to ever having my fingers touch the surface. So the card is surface is something that PSA has really gotten strict, and not just PSA. All the grading companies have gotten a lot stricter with regarding cards having surface issues. So important not to touch the surface of the card if you can avoid it. Fourth example here was one that I chose. Well, I mean, looking over here, the centering looks better to me. I think it might be, 55-55 or even 50-50. Back centering is a little better. Back's a little bit off-centered, but again, they're pretty relaxed on the back, and nothing else of issue with this card, razor sharp. So this is one that I, upon first viewing, decided it was a solid PSA 10 contender. You can see the corners are all no issues. So this one was going to PSA, and upon second viewing, it made the cut again. So yeah, this one actually did get sent off to PSA. And another sort of trick of the trade here, you may have noticed when I'm putting cards into sleeves that the sleeves are a little wider than normal sleeves. That's because when I use sleeves for cards that are going to go off to grading, I actually use vintage card sleeves. They're card sleeves that were designed for cards from the 50s, and are a little bit bigger and wider. And it just makes it a little easier to get the cards in and out, especially if it's then going into a semi-rigid. This copy here looked basically perfect to me. I saw absolutely no issues. I look over the surface really closely, as you can see here, and I thought the centering was great. And even the back centering is a little bit off, but again, back centering generally does not factor in much unless it's like way off. So this one I thought was another contender, and upon second viewing, this one also made the cut. So you can see the sleeve, yeah, a little wider. The penny sleeve a little wider than standard penny sleeves, and again, that's using vintage card sleeves. And yeah, to me, that's just made the process easier and a little safer. Like you're less likely to sort of nick the corner and stuff because the sleeve's a little wider, so it has a little more room. What is this, 5th copy or 6th copy, or maybe it's the 7th copy? I've lost track here, but looking over this one, similar to some of the other ones, you may have noticed a lot of them have very similar issues, which is the right border is just like the tiniest bit wider than the left on a lot of them. And probably they all came from the same case or box, or I don't know. But it was to varying degrees on each card, like how much wider. But, for this one, I thought it was close enough. Like, is it 50-50? Probably not. Is it within 55-45, which is the limits for a 10 for PSA? I thought that it was. And the back centering was actually really good for what that's worth. So this one was one that made the cut for me on the first pass, and it actually also made the cut for me on the second pass. So this one got shipped off to PSA. And all these got sent in at the bulk level, which is $20 a card, or $19.99 a card. But I mean, it's realistically a little more than that when you factor in shipping and insurance in both directions. But yeah, just calling it $20 a card for the sake of the video here. Next, Lamar Jackson card. Same sort of centering issues that we've seen on a bunch of them. Like the right border just the tiniest bit wider than the left. This one also had a slightly dinged upper right corner. Not sure if you can see it in the video, but the upper right corner just had a slight nick. So this one was an easy one. No chance at a 10 whatsoever. No reason to send this one in. From a dealer standpoint, even if I got a 9, like I mentioned earlier, I'd be losing money. So it's an easy one. Easy pass. And, easy, even as a collector, it's just a point I've made on the channel. I want to, push home a little bit. Even as a collector, if you own this card and you wanted it in a PSA 9, you would save yourself money and a ton of time to just go out and buy the 9 and then sell the raw copy. You would make more money doing it that way, or you'd do better money wise doing it that way, plus save yourself the time. And that's one of the things I hope that the community improves upon is again, I think too many cards are being sent in for grading. And going over the last Lamar Jackson, which actually the same issue as the previous one. The tiniest bit off center, left, right, actually has a slight ding in the upper right corner. Not sure why I didn't show it better here in the video, but yeah, it also had a slight ding in the upper right corner. So the last two Lamar Jacksons do not pass the test. All right, on to Josh Allen. So first thing I want to know is, what does the card sell for raw? And here's 8 recent sales of the card on eBay, ranging from 55 up to about 80. It looks like the 55 was kind of a low outlier sale. So I'd call this about a $70 card, maybe $70, $75, somewhere in there. And just quick side note, why is Josh Allen's same rookie selling more than double Lamar Jackson's? Shouldn't they be, pretty similar? I mean, they have similar careers. I mean, Lamar Jackson's got 2 MVPs to Josh Allen's 1, 4 Pro Bowls to Josh Allen's 3. Their career numbers and winning record are all pretty close. I mean, Lamar Jackson's, on pace to break all sorts of quarterback rushing records for his career. I don't know. Just seems like they should be comparable, or neither has been to a Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but feels like the Lamar Jackson card is just way too low. It's just so low, at least compared to the Josh Allen here. But okay, next thing I want to know is what does the card sell for graded? And you can see in an 8, it's a $66 cardish. So it's actually worth more raw than in a PSA 8. And a PSA 9, it's about a $100 card. So there you actually do see some value add, because if it's a $75 card and you spend $20 to get it graded, now it's 100, you've added $5, which is not a great result, but that is nice in the sense, like, if that's our downside, that's a great downside. And then obviously in a 10 is where you start to see some nice return. So this is even though the numbers are different, it's actually the same situation here. It has to be kind of a 10 contender. If it has no chance at a 10 and it's going to be either an 8 or a 9, there's just not enough upside to send it in, because at a 9 you're making $5 and at an 8 you're actually losing money and you're waiting 3 months to get the card back. That's just the numbers don't work out there. So the same situation here. It has to be a 10 contender for me to consider sending this in. Okay, looking these over, there were 3 Josh Allens, and the first one was an easy one. It's off-centered left to right. The left border is clearly wider than the right. So this is an easy pass. I mean, it's not within the range of, this would have no chance at a 10. If this was in a PSA 10 holder, everyone would look at it and go, what happened there? So that's an obvious pass. Looking at the second one, which were in these snap cases, which one of the more annoying type of cases in the hobby, very hard to open and very hard to get the card out without touching it, which I went to great lengths in this video to do. Using a penny sleeve and then using a second penny sleeve to sort of pinch it so that I could hold it, and then putting it in and then looking it over that way. Yeah, kind of got clever with my, how to examine the card without touching the surface. But this one looked really, really, really good. The centering was great in both directions, left to right and top to bottom. Corners and edges were all sharp. I saw absolutely no issues with the surface whatsoever. So even the back centering was really nice. You may have noticed the back centering was like sort of slightly off on a lot of these, but on this particular one it was pretty good. So this one was a definite 10 contender in my eyes, and gets sent off to PSA here. Looking over the surface one more time there, but yeah, this one was a go for sure. And remember, the Josh Allen has a little more I don't know, grace than the Lamar Jackson, because in a 9 it's actually a slight increase in value, whereas the Lamar Jackson would have been a slight decrease or a slight loss in a 9, which does play is significant when you send in a lot of cards at this level. And the last Josh Allen here was off-centered left to right. Left border is wider than the right border, so that one was an easy pass. So sending one of the 3 Josh Allens off to PSA, and that brings us to our one Patrick Mahomes. So looking over recent sales of the card raw, here's 8 recent sales on eBay, and quite the range. Ranges from 136 up to 235, but the 136 had a crease, so you can sort of throw that one out. It's I'd call this a $180 card raw, easy, maybe more like 200. But we'll say 180 for the video here. Looking over the value of the card graded, a PSA 7 goes for about 180, so roughly what a raw copy sells for. An 8 is a little over 200. A 9, so an 8 sort of break-even realm, and a 9 is 350, so there's some decent return on a 9, and then a 10 is where you get good value, is it's about $1,000 card. And so there's different criteria for this card than on the previous ones, because there's still really nice upside on a 9. So this doesn't need to be a 10 for it to still make sense to send in. If I was looking at this and I was like, okay, it's not going to be a 10, but it could be an 8 or a 9, that would still pass the test, because 8 being your projected downside and break even, that's fine, and then a 9 would still give you some nice return. So looking over the Patrick Mahomes, this is a 2017 donruss Patrick Mahomes rookie, and centering. Well, so something funny about this is that this card used to be $4. Or used to have a $4 price sticker at one point on it. I obviously paid a lot more than that, but the person who I bought it from had the original price stickers, and yeah, they had gotten this, or it once was for sale somewhere for $4. But yeah, slightly off-centered left to right. Not really. Centering looks pretty good. All the surface stuff looks good. The lower left corner has a slight ding, which I'll show in just a sec. So a 10 is definitely out. You can probably see it there. 10 is definitely out. I think a 9 is in play. but more likely an 8. You can see the lower left corner there. Most likely this would get an 8, and I think a 9 is sort of, yeah, maybe a reach. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit here. But I decided to go ahead and send it in with the idea that it's probably an 8 with a chance at a 9. And remember, 8's a break even. And even a 7 is just like a small loss. So to me, the downside wasn't really much, and there's some nice upside in the off chance that it gets a 9. So decided to send it in. So in summary, we had one Mahomes I'm sending in, one Josh Allen, and originally it had chosen 5 Lamar Jacksons. I whittled that down to 3. So in the end, one Mahomes, one Josh Allen, and 3 Lamar Jacksons got sent in. And then the ones that did not get sent in, 2 Josh Allens and 3 Lamar Jacksons, plus 2 more Lamar Jacksons that got vetoed upon second viewing. But that's it. Appreciate everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed, and eat your vegetables. See you all again next time. Thanks, everyone.